Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Glendale Civil Service Commission meeting on October 11, 2023. May we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Hatamian,
Here.
Commissioner Hartunian,
Here.
Commissioner McGrabian,
Good evening here.
Chair Gazarian.
Yes, thank you. Next item, please.
Minutes, consideration for the minutes of the September 13th, 2023 meeting.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hatamian,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrabian,
Yes.
Chair Gazarian.
Yes, thank you. Next item, please.
Oral communications,
I see no cards. Is there any Anybody lined up or signed up on other platforms, Mr. Kwan?
I am checking that now. And no, we do not have any calls.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Recruitment and examination report.
Thank you. Ms. Adams?
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, this is the regular recruitment and examination status report, which represents the current recruitments in process and that our team is currently working on. You will notice that our team has 71 open recruitments at this time, and that they are in various stages of the examination and selection process. And this report reflects those various stages. If the commission has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, this is a note and file item.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Any questions?
No.
Not from.
Hearing none. Thank you. Next item, please.
Eligible list established.
Thank you. Ms. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, the subject before the commission is the regular report that includes all of the eligible lists that were recently established since our last meeting in September. The report includes the total number of applications and the number of individuals that advanced through the various stages of our examination processes. Since our last meeting, we've had a total of 14 lists that were established. 5 were open to the public, 6 were given on a promotional basis, and 3 were given on an open and promotional basis. This is a note and file item. However, if the commission has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Any questions?
No questions.
Hearing none. Thank you. Next item, please.
Brown Act presentation.
Thank you. Ms. Adams?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, I would like to invite our city attorney, Mark Garcia, to the podium. Mr. Garcia will review a brief presentation on the Brown Act, which we periodically do for all of our city commissions as a reminder to all of us about disclosure, deliberations, and having our meetings in an open and transparent manner. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to City Attorney Mike Garcia.
Mr. Garcia, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. It's good to be here. To the new commissioners, welcome, or welcome back, Mr. Tomian. I will try to get through this relatively quickly. The slide presentation can be a little lengthy, but I'll try to get through as quickly as possible. As Ms. Adams knows, periodically we want to provide an update to all the commissions on the Brown Act that apply to these meetings that you have as you conduct your business, to make sure that we're complying both in the process of getting ready for the meeting as well as the conduct during the meeting. So as you know, the purpose of the Brown Act is essentially to make sure that our decision-making processes are open to the public, that the public has the opportunity to not only speak at the meetings, but to know in advance what's going to be discussed at the meetings. The primary requirements are that the body, each legislative body, before it may not meet to hear, discuss, or deliberate or take action on any item, any matter that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission, without complying with the Brown Act, without having meetings open to the public, without having your items agendized, and without taking public comment before you take action or items that are within your jurisdiction. The Brown Act applies to legislative bodies. That's the term of art in the legislation. That's the governing body of this agency, so the City Council, as well as any body that's formed by formal action of the City Council, as well as any standing committees. So obviously it applies to the Civil Service Commission. The Act applies to meetings. So a meeting is a congregation, a majority of members of the body at the same time or place to hear, discuss, deliberate, take action on any matter within your subject matter jurisdiction. So anything that applies for Civil Service Commission requires that these meetings be agendized and open to the public. And so a meeting is not just where a majority congregates in the same physical location, but applies to other types of actions that may be considered a meeting, including serial meetings. So an action is defined as any action, any collective concurrence, any decision, whether it's formally a motion or whether you provide some direction or any direction to your staff, for example, or where you take some sort of action to move something forward from where it was previously. And again, not only is a meeting where an action is taken, but also where there's a conversation about something that's within your subject matter jurisdiction. And then I will note that deliberation, a lot of people think deliberation is actually where, not only where you discuss something, deliberate on it, and then take action, but deliberation under the cases that are under the Brown Act also includes things like where collective acquisition of facts. So you may be in a situation where you're getting briefed, and if there was a majority of you getting briefed on something, even if you're not asking any questions or discussing it, under the cases, that's deemed to be a meeting because you are hearing facts all at the same time. There are a number of exceptions to the requirements of the Brown Act, meaning there are activities which would technically constitute a meeting, but they fall within specific exceptions under the statute. One is conferences or similar gatherings that are open to the public. Others are community meetings that are not organized by the city. So if you're invited to a community meeting on a subject that may be a city related to the city, but it's not organized by the city, members of that legislative body are permitted to attend. I will note with those two exceptions, the exception to those exceptions is that the members of that legislative body are not allowed to talk amongst themselves about something that's within subject matter jurisdiction unless it's part of the program. So if, for example, a legislative body, a planning commission, city council, civil service commission is invited to go to a community meeting, and there's something specific on that topic, then members of the body would be able to participate at that time. But what's intended to prohibit is a situation where that legislative body is sort of off to the side discussing something and not participating in that community meeting. A couple other exceptions that are relevant, obviously an open and notice meeting of another legislative body. So from time to time, you may be invited to attend a council meeting, to participate, to address council. In that circumstance, that is permitted as well. Social ceremonial occasions, from time to time, we may have a Christmas party, we may have an event for the boards and commissions, those are exempt. And then individual contacts, so individual contacts maybe with each other, or individual contacts with staff, that is an exception, a noted exception under the Brown Act. So, as I noted, not only are meetings which we typically think of as a meeting where we're all in the same room discussing a topic, not only is that required to comply with the Brown Act, but a meeting, let me just go to the picture, it's probably a little bit easier, but serial meetings where intermediaries are used or technology is used to develop a collective concurrence outside of the meeting context where maybe Commissioner Hartooni is speaking to the chair, and then the chair has a conversation with another commissioner about what he talked about with Commissioner Hartooni. That would be a meeting, and that would violate the Brown Act unless it was noticed in a manner that complies with the Brown Act. Here's another scenario, maybe where a member is talking to a number of commissioners or council members and is developing a collective concurrence outside of the meeting. And that member in the middle could be not only one of you, but it could be a staff member, it could be a member of the community sometimes, and I've seen this happen where a community member may try to poll individual, it happens more at the council level, try to poll all the council members, and it's not necessarily a Brown Act violation if none of those other members know what's going on, but if at some point they start hearing what some of the other members of the legislative body are hearing, that could be a Brown Act violation. I did want to provide some information regarding social media. In 2021, I believe, the legislature adopted AB 992. Typically speaking, again, two commission members speaking to each other about a topic that may fall within your jurisdiction would not necessarily be a violation of the Brown Act. The legislature, in its infinite wisdom or lack thereof, adopted this statute, which applies to the individual member context. So if any member of a body, any legislative body posts something on social media, this section prohibits any other member of that same body from commenting on it in any fashion. Thumbs up, smiling emoji, anything that is prohibited under the statute. And so if any of you are posting about anything pertains to this jurisdiction, would encourage you all not to respond on social media. So several types of meetings, I think, and you've probably encountered these. The most frequent, obviously, the regular meetings that you have. It requires a 72-hour notice. It requires the agenda to be posted 72 hours with the description of the items that are going to be discussed at the meeting. Legislative bodies are also entitled to have special meetings where it's a shorter time frame, 24 hours. Again, at that point, only items that are specifically on that agenda can be discussed. And then there are also emergency meetings, very rare, but if there's actually an emergency, last emergency meeting I can recall that we ever had was during COVID. We were just running around and required to get an emergency meeting notice right away. And then adjourned meetings, those are meetings where you can adjourn from one meeting to another meeting without having a 72-hour notice. Not utilized very frequently here in Glendale, but it is an option. So as you know, we're required to have agendas and agenda packets for not only for you, but they are for the public to understand what you all are going to be discussing. They need to be available in ADA formats and distributed in advance to members of the public. Any materials that are distributed to a majority of each legislative body also have to be made available to the public, and that includes information that's distributed to the body within 72 hours prior to the meeting. So that period where after the agendas have gone out, if you all receive information, whether it's from staff or from members of the public, that also has to be made available to the public. So I mention that because there may be a time where you all get contacted by a member of the public and it's just sent to the 5 of you, or the 4 of you now, but maybe staff is not aware of it. And so I would only ask if you get a communication from the public that you forward that to the staff so they're aware and they can make sure that information is made available to the public. Happens very often where we don't hear about something until a little bit later. There is, as you noted, obviously, as I discussed, the Brown Act prohibits each body from taking action or even discussing matters not on the agenda. There are a couple of exceptions, obviously, or rules within that apply, and I think you're all aware of those, but you may briefly respond to statements made or questions made by the public. You can obviously ask for clarification. You can make an announcement or make a brief report on your activities, as long as there's no discussion amongst the members on that particular matter. Again, you can provide references to staff. You can ask for a staff report. You can ask for staff to put something on the agenda in the future, assuming that complies with your, but again, no discussion about the substance of a matter beyond clarification questions or asking staff for follow-up. There is an exception that if there's something urgent that you become aware of that requires the body to discuss it. It came after the posting of the agenda, and the body has to take action at that meeting. There's really an urgent need to take action. Then the body by 2/3 vote may vote to add that item to the agenda. And again, there has to be an urgency. It has to have arisen after the post of the agenda, and there truly has to be a need to take action at that meeting. It can't wait, in other words. Pertaining to public access participation, we can't require, as a condition of attendance, people to sign in to attend. People are allowed, if they don't want to give their name or give their address, they are permitted to do that. And it's part of your agenda, you just had it, although nobody spoke, you have a period of oral communications where people can address the body on general subjects of matter, as well as we have to provide the opportunity for members of the public to speak on matters that are on your agenda. You obviously can impose reasonable time limits on those speakers, but you have to allow members the opportunity to address you. If there are non-English speakers who attend and want to speak on an item and they have a translator, whether it's provided by the city or they bring their own, you have to provide that speaker double the time that you're providing English speakers. So if you're allowing speakers 3 minutes, you have to give that speaker 6 minutes to allow their translator to provide that opportunity to speak. Public has the right to record either audio or video, anything that's going on in open session, as long as they're not causing a disturbance. So from time to time, certainly council, we've had members of the media, we don't let them sit up here, but they're allowed to sit up back there because as long as they're not distracting or being disturbance, that you have to allow them the opportunity to record the proceeding. There has been recent updates related to teleconference meetings. The general rule, this is the old rule, or I don't want to call it the old rule, it's the existing rule, but it's been in place for a long time. If there's a member of the body who cannot participate directly because they're, for example, they're going to be out of town, but they wish to participate, then they can do so as long as their remote location is posted, meaning that the agenda is posted 72 hours before, and as long as that location is open to the public. Present some challenges from time to time, but that's one way that a member can participate remotely. For example, most often used when it's urgent or semi-urgent, or they want to participate, but they are not going to be in town. And you can do so as long as the majority of the members are actually in the location where the meeting's being held. And then if you do follow that, if that is utilized, you do have to take all votes by roll call. After COVID, obviously during COVID, this changed. Governor executed an emergency order to allow some flexibility with this. And then as we were winding down from COVID, the legislature adopted 2 new exceptions. One is during a proclaimed state of emergency. I won't get into that too much, but it's basically allowing if there's a COVID 2.0, allow some flexibility to allow additional remote meetings. There's also a new emergency circumstances or just cause exception, which allows an infrequent use of remote participation, mostly when if you're, for example, if you're sick, if you have a contagious illness, and allows, if there's a child care or a caregiving need, it's urgent, contagious illness, physical or mental disability, or if you're traveling on official business. In that case, you can use this just cause exception by notifying the body that you wish to participate remotely. The latest you can do it is at the beginning of the meeting, so usually that requires some coordination with staff to get you remoted in. We've already had a couple of circumstances with council where we've had to utilize it due to illness. And again, just general description of why you can't participate if you're sick. You have to, if you are participating, if you are using this exception, you have to disclose to the body who else is in the room with you. That's to ensure that there's nobody in the room that's not either a member of the public or isn't a relative. So you just say, my spouse is here and they're sitting here, they're not participating. You have to participate both audio and visual, so it has to be an audio and visual component to you being set up. And if this happens after the posting of the agenda, so if you become sick after we posted the agenda, then it requires the legislative body by 2/3 vote to basically vote you on the island and allow you to participate remotely. Again, the quorum has to be present at the location, and then the public, if we're using this exception, the public has to have the right to be able to participate in real time, which isn't a problem for us because we've been doing that for all of our commissions since COVID began. The only other exception is that this is limited to either 3 consecutive months or 20% of the regular meetings of a calendar year, and if you meet less than 10 times per year, 2 meetings per month. So I tried to breeze through that. I hope it wasn't too fast, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I think the only thing is, there's obviously there is a closed session exception, which in the context of disciplinary matters we use, and we follow all the protocols with that. I'm happy to answer any questions on that or anything else.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Garcia.
you.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Class specification and job bulletin for approval, utility risk manager.
Thank you. Ms. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, we are here today to seek approval for the updated specification and job bulletin for the position of utility risk manager at Glendale Water and Power. This specification has not been updated for a decade. The utility risk manager role is pivotal for directing both long-term and short-term risk management activities at GWP. Our proposed revisions include language updates that align with industry standards, clarification of essential job functions, and the inclusion of standard verbiage commonly found in similar job specifications. Since the last job bulletin was posted in 2017 on a promotional basis, only one candidate met the minimum qualifications and subsequently filled the role. This position is currently vacant, and we are relying on support contractors for risk management tasks. Due to the scarcity of qualified internal candidates, we are respectfully requesting approval to make the job publicly available. We have notified the Glendale Management Association, who have expressed no reservations about the changes proposed. Therefore, we are requesting your approval of the updated class specification for utility risk manager, as well as permission to publicly post the job bulletin. If you have any questions, we have Scott Mellon, our Assistant General Manager for Glendale Water and Power, here along with staff, and they will be happy to answer any specific questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Any questions? Any questions?
No questions.
No question.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Next item, please. No questions. Are we gonna, was this a vote item?
Yes.
Okay, is that a motion?
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hatamian,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrabian,
Yes.
Chair Gazarian.
Yes. Thank you. I was trying to make it go away without a vote. Next item, please.
You were in a hurry.
Because I'm looking at this agenda, I'm like moving along. Go ahead, next item.
Class specifications for approval, power engineering manager, water engineering manager, electrical engineering manager, electrical field services supervisor.
Thank you. Ms. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, we are seeking approval of the newly defined class specifications for the roles of power engineering manager, water engineering manager, electrical engineering manager, and electrical field services supervisor with the Glendale Water and Power. As approved in the City Council meeting on September 26, 2023, the establishment of these classifications aims to align job titles with industry standards. The alignment will enhance GWP's capabilities in recruiting and retaining top-tier talent. The Power Engineering Manager role oversees engineers and engineering projects related to GWP's utility systems, including planning, construction, operation, and maintenance. The Water Engineering Manager managerial position leads the water engineering section and serves as the acting head of water operations, distribution, and water quality sections in the absence of senior management. The Electrical Engineering Manager role focuses on managing and supervising the electric service section of GWP. The supervisory position of Electrical Field Services Supervisor is responsible for planning, budgeting, and directing construction, maintenance, and repair activities across the city's electrical infrastructure. The Glendale Management Association has reviewed these class specifications without expressing any concerns. Therefore, we kindly request your approval of these updated class specifications as presented. If you have any questions, we have Dan Scorza, Chief Assistant GM for Glendale Water and Power, and Scott Mellon, Assistant GM for GWP, along with staff here, and they will be happy to answer any specific questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Who do you, well, I don't know who the question is for, so why don't you?
I guess it's a general question of, are these new positions that were being performed by other people, and who were what positions were performing these positions before this? I guess my question is, are they replacing anyone or adding new job duties, just so I can visualize it?
Commissioner McGrabian, Senior Assistant Deputy General Manager, Water and Power, Chair Gazarian, staff. I'll go over, since there are multiple positions, I'll go over them quickly. I'll try to answer your question. So what we're trying to do essentially, what was in the memo, is trying to bring classifications that are currently our standards outside of the city of Glendale. Some of them have been vacant for 5-10 years in power management section. Some of them have been vacant, like in electrical services, 2 years. We tried to recruit. The previous title was electrical services administrator. And what we learned that the industry no longer uses those classifications. So these are vacant positions with the exception of one, which will be a lateral transfer of the individual from an administrative position to an engineering position.
Okay, thank you so much. That makes sense, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
I like to see the engineering degree requirements for the engineering position, so I like that.
Yes. They are all required for engineering positions.
Thank you.
You know I'm happy.
Is this an item we're going to vote on too?
Thank you.
I believe so.
Yes? The vote. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second, anybody?
I will second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner Hatamian,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrabian,
Yes.
Chair Gazarian.
Yes, thank you. Next item, please. Sorry?
Class specification for approval, equipment operator series.
Thank you, Ms. Adams.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, we are pleased to present for your review and approval the updated class specification for the Equipment Operator Series in the Public Works Department. During the City Council meeting on June 13th, 2023, a new classification, Senior Equipment Operator, was approved for inclusion within the series. The purpose of these revisions is to incorporate the Senior Equipment Operator into the existing series and to refresh the essential functions and minimum qualifications for all positions. Roles within this series entail semi-skilled to skilled mechanical work involving the operation of a range of automotive and maintenance equipment, including but not limited to 3-axle vehicles, boom trucks, and light-duty graders. The Senior Equipment Operator position will carry added responsibilities, including the operation of the most complex equipment and leading ground crews in the construction and maintenance of public right-of-ways. We've also updated the driver's license requirements to meet operational demands and added the city's standard boilerplate language for consistency with other class specifications. The Glendale City Employees Association has been informed about these proposed changes and has not expressed any concern. So therefore, we are seeking your approval for the updated class specifications as presented. We have our street superintendent, Carlos Linares, and our street maintenance supervisor, Matthew Binder, here along with staff who can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Any questions? Hearing none?
I do
Yes?
have one question in regards to the additional minimum requirements. This is on page 48. What is the difference between the minimum requirements and the additional minimum requirements? Is a candidate supposed to fulfill all of those to be an applicant or to be considered for the position? Thank you.
Good evening. Ando Vardanian, Human Resources. So, senior equipment operator will be the lead worker, and there will be on the ground supervising staff and a lead worker capacity. So therefore, additional minimum requirement is principles and practices of effective leadership and supervision.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part. Therefore what?
Therefore, we added knowledge of principles and practices of effective leadership and supervision.
I see. Thank you.
It looks like from the in the series, the licenses and certifications took out the Class B driver's license and made one of the positions need a Class B, but the other Class A. Is that why the series took out that requirement, because they're different requirements?
I'll try to answer that question since I worked on the spec. So the equipment operator one will be operating light equipment, and therefore there won't be a need for a Class A. But the equipment operator two and the newly established class specification of senior equipment operator will be operating the most complex equipment, so therefore a Class A will be required.
Makes sense.
So when the exam is posted, is it gonna read additional minimum requirements, or is it just gonna read as minimum requirements?
It's going to read as minimum requirements.
That's what's throwing me off. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
I do want to mention, since you're here, I wanted to thank you for heeding our recommendations and making the ensures departmental services are provided with exceptional customer service and the highest level of ethical standards on top, consistent in every position. It's beautiful, and I thank you.
Thank
And
you.
commend you as well.
Thank you.
And I thank you, Commissioner, for acknowledging that change which I saw, and I said, you know, these people were put to the ringer last time, and here they are, but nobody's saying, this is great. I'm glad you said it. Thank you. Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Hatamian,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrabian,
Yes.
Chair Gazarian.
Yes, thank you. Next item, please. Oh, Ms. Adams.
No, I have to read
Read
it.
it into the record,
So,
please.
Oh, yes. Oh, Mr. Kwan, you're throwing me off all night. First, there's no coffee here. Go ahead.
You're in a hurry today.
class
I'm trying not to
specific-
fall asleep. Go ahead.
Class specification series for approval, cement worker finisher series.
Thank you, Ms. Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. We are here to request your approval of the updated class specification for the cement worker finisher series within the Public Works Department. As established in the City Council meeting on June 13th, 2023, a new role, senior cement worker finisher, has been approved for inclusion within the series. The objective of these revisions is to incorporate the senior cement worker finisher position into the existing series and to update essential functions and minimum qualifications for all the related roles. The positions will involve journey-level, skilled manual work in areas such as concrete finishing for streets, sidewalks, and other masonry tasks. The senior cement worker finisher will not only lead and supervise crews in masonry work, but will also handle investigation and documentation for trip and fall incidents. This role will act as the street crew supervisor in their absence. Additionally, we are standardizing the series by incorporating cities' boilerplate language for consistency with other class specifications. The Glendale City Employees Association has been informed about these proposed changes and has not expressed any concern. So then we are seeking your approval for the updated class specifications as presented. As with the last item, we have the street superintendent and the street maintenance supervisor here, along with city staff, who can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Any questions?
I do have a question. For the senior cement worker finisher, for both positions, I do see there's no educational requirement. I guess I have a question / concern for the senior cement worker finisher position, because this position leads, trains, and supervises other employees and investigates and provides documentation. And we don't have a requirement for either a high school degree or a GED. And I'm just wondering why that decision was made.
So, let me answer the question if I may.
Identify yourself for the
Aldo
record.
Vardanian, Human
Thank you.
Resources.
Nice to
you,
see
sir.
you again.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
So we do have a educational requirement. It's a high school diploma.
Did I miss it? Where is?
You're looking at the,
Oh, here it is on page 53. That is what I wanted to see. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
That takes away
Did
my
it
concern.
require two of you to come up to say that?
No, I thought I'd bring Mr. Binder with me in case you had any technical questions.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, I'm fully satisfied now.
Okay. Is that a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hatamian,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrabian,
Yes.
Chair Kazarian.
Yes, thank you. Next item, please, Mr. Kwan.
Class specification and job bulletin for approval, equipment maintenance supervisor.
Thank you. Ms. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, we are seeking your approval for the revised class specification and the corresponding open job bulletin for the position of Equipment Maintenance Supervisor within the Public Works Department. This mid-management supervisor role is responsible for overseeing equipment, mechanical staff in the repair and maintenance of a diverse range of automotive equipment across the city. The existing class specification was last updated in 2012, and it's due for a refresh to align with current industry standards. Specifically, we are proposing to add a requirement of 2 years of supervisory experience to attract candidates capable of independently managing a mechanical shop. The revisions also include the city's standard boilerplate language for consistency with other class specifications. Due to the specialized skill set required in the limited pool of qualified internal candidates, we are also requesting the Commission's approval to conduct an open recruitment process for this role. The proposed job bulletin aligns with the updated class specification. The Glendale Management Association has reviewed the open job bulletin and has not expressed any concern. So we therefore respectfully request your approval of the updated class specification and the open job bulletin for Equipment Maintenance Supervisor to be promulgated as submitted. We have the Assistant Director of Public Works, Kevin Todd, here, along with our Mechanical Maintenance Superintendent and HR staff, and together they will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Any questions?
I do have a question. On page 59, we have under the note, a comprehensive background check may be required depending on assignment. And I didn't see that note for other positions, so I'm wondering why this position is so special to require that. Versus others. I mean, it sounds like a good idea for all positions.
Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners. Kevin Todd, Assistant Director of Public Works. Regarding your question, this position that we're specifically going to recruit right now will be the supervisor over the police garage.
Over
so
the, what?
over the police garage. So they will be directly working with transporting access to police assets. So a background check is certainly necessary for this location.
Thank you for the clarification.
I have a quick question, if I may. Excuse my ignorance. Is how the ASE certificate, how difficult is it to obtain that certificate? Is it how long does it take, or?
I can get you really good information on that from our superintendent who has those certifications. He can speak directly to what that takes.
And the reason I ask is because I'm wondering if we make it required as opposed to desirable, is that going to hinder our efforts to recruit, or how is that going to change the landscape?
Good evening, Savada Emerson, Fleet Superintendent. The ASE series has a truck line and also an automotive line, and there's about 12 tests, and it's basically a written test to gain the ASE.
Okay. As far as making this requirement as opposed to desired, is that gonna make it very difficult to get candidates?
It could potentially make it more difficult to get candidates, and also it's not necessarily an industry standard to have those ASEs. It basically says that you can read and write. So yeah.
Okay.
Is it a costly test? Do you need one of those, do you need to hire a company to help you pass,
No, there's-
study and pass the test?
No, there's books, there's online training you can take. The time I took them, the tests were about maybe $50 each, so not really costly.
I kind of like the idea of making it required if it's not that difficult to pass and not that expensive to study for.
Is there a question there, someone?
I don't know, I haven't decided yet what my desire is on that.
Typically, a standard for private automotive shops to prove to the customers coming in that they have qualified mechanics. We don't see it too much within government organizations where you have the ASE requirement.
Do you believe that the position can properly perform their job duties without this certification?
Hold on a second. Approach the microphone. I think maybe the live telecast is probably seeking you to be
Yes.
closer to
Yeah,
the microphone.
sorry about that.
Sure.
I'm sorry, the question?
Do you believe that the position, the holder of the position can adequately do their job duties without this certification?
I'm certain. Most of our staff now is not ASC certified. We used to have a lot that were, that have kind of given it up, but now they're going back for it because we do incentivize it. But we have some incredible mechanics in the field right now and managing our shops that don't have that certification currently.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
No? Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hatamian,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrabian,
Yes.
Chair Gazarian.
Yes, thank you. Next item, please.
Job bulletin for approval, fire captain.
Thank you. Ms. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, we are seeking your approval for the job bulletin of fire captain, a sworn promotional recruitment within the fire department. As mandated by Civil Service Rule 4, Section 3C, this bulletin requires Civil Service Commission approval before posting. In March 2023, the class specification for fire captain was updated to align with new certification requirements set by the California State Fire Marshal. We are requesting a one-time exemption to allow prospective candidates to use recently discontinued courses for qualification in the selection process. Candidates granted this exemption must complete all required coursework before an actual promotion to fire captain can be attained, but they will be allowed to take the examination. The selection methodology mirrors the last recruitment and includes a written exam, a multiple oral assessment panels consisting of a tactical exercise, a professional oral panel interview, and a supervisory assessment interview. Upon your approval, the bulletin will be posted from October 16th to October 27th. The respective exams are tentatively scheduled to commence in November as detailed in the bulletin. The Glendale Firefighters Association has been given an opportunity to review the job bulletin and has not expressed any concerns. Therefore, we are respectfully requesting that the proposed job bulletin for fire captain be approved as submitted. We have HR staff here, along with interim deputy fire chief Brian Ritchie, who will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. I have some questions, but I'll defer to my fellow commissioners if they have any. Otherwise, I will pose my questions. Anybody wants to pose questions, or shall I proceed?
I have a question, if I
Go
may.
ahead.
I don't know if this is for Ms. Adams or, I'm sorry.
Mr. Commissioner, members of the commission.
I'm sorry, your last name, please.
Brian Ritchie.
Okay, Mr. Rich. I didn't catch, we're seeking exemption from what? This one-time exemption?
Right. When we were before the commission back in March of 2023, we presented to you some obsolete courses that our candidates will no longer be able to take. And we had a list of courses in category like column A and column B. And we said we were no longer going to use the courses in column A, and we were going to move to column B. But there might be an adverse impact on our internal employees who have not yet had an opportunity to take the new coursework. So what we're asking you is to allow them to take the written exam, but before they can get an appointment to fire captain, they will have to complete the new coursework that is promulgated in the class specification.
So because my question had to do with that area, I'm going to exercise the prerogative of sitting in the middle of these fine folks and ask you a follow-up, Ms. Adams. When I read that, it said, to adapt to this change, the fire department is requesting a one-time exemption to allow prospective candidates for captain to utilize the recently discontinued courses. So how are you going to utilize a recently discontinued course if the course is discontinued?
If they can show proof of having taken one of those courses
In the past, having taken
in the
it.
past,
I see.
we want to allow them to take the written examination.
I see.
Now, they cannot be, actually get an appointment to fire captain until they can demonstrate that they have completed the new coursework that is out there today.
And are the new courses versus the discontinued courses different in terms of perhaps presentation of the same materials or subject matter? Is that it?
would
Or
be
is it substantially different in
Not
terms of
substantially
training and
different.
skills?
It's just the expired the previous Track A courses in 2016. They were approximately 15 to 16 years old. They updated them to the current standard, which we call Track B, which is the current track. It's taking the old information and building upon it with new standards from federal to the state level to make sure they have the most pertinent, up-to-date information.
If
Okay.
they were discontinued in 2016,
If I may.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
If I may. So the fact that they were discontinued in 2016, I can reasonably deduce that there may be some within the department that took it in as recently as 2016, but in 2023 or soon to be 2024, if the request is to allow them to qualify and participate in the selection process, are they going to be disadvantaged, or are they going to be unfairly given an advantage while lacking 7, 8 years worth of updates? If you could just clarify to me, I don't want to, I certainly, as one vote in this body, I don't want to keep anybody from advancing. I just want to make sure, especially, when it's a fire department that obviously, we all rely on, I want to make sure that the individual is going to be in a safe environment serving the community, and the community will be in a safe environment being served by the individual.
Yeah, they wouldn't have any drastic advantages or disadvantages. A number of these people, and they're not many, I believe there's 2 to 3 that would qualify, had taken the previous exam under the old tract, but were not successful. So they're quality candidates, so the engineer rank and so forth, that would be good for the position, but they had not yet completed 1 or 2 of the newer courses. They had some of them, but not all. So most of these people have a number of the new courses. They just didn't have time or could not find the class to complete the new ones. So it's not a safety issue. It's just we want to make sure they're up to date with the current state fire marshal fire officer series. So once they make captain, we can make sure they're official fire officers with the state
But
match
then when
those
you
standards.
say, forgive the interruption, but when the description here says, if approved, the candidates who will be granted the exemption will need to complete all of the coursework required by CSFM prior to being promoted, does all of the courses required by CSFM include the new updated versions of these discontinued courses?
Yes.
It does?
Yeah, so there are actually fewer courses. They condensed the course series down and piled more into a single course.
Right.
But unfortunately, they can't obtain a fire officer certification if they have the old courses anymore. It's long expired. So we want everyone to have professional qualifications, fire officer, chief officer, and that's why we're requiring these now.
So when a fire captain is anointed fire captain in the end, he or she will have undergone all of the courses or the requirements that are current today in 2023.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm satisfied. I have other questions, but I'll defer to fellow commissioners if they want to follow on this line of, with regards to this issue at all. Go
Thank you.
ahead.
I just wanted to make sure I understand, because the language is, I think the language is unclear. That's why it's creating confusion. As I understand it, because of the timing of the position being posted, some people who you believe would be great candidates have not finished the classes, and you don't want them to be prevented from applying for the position. But if they get the position before they actually put the captain's hat on, they'll have to finish the classes.
Yes, they would have to finish the class.
So it's just a timing problem.
It's a timing thing. So with the captain's exam, it can take place between 1 to 2 years. So when we changed the bulletin back in March, now we didn't have enough time to find the current classes to meet the full standard today. But
So are the classes available only periodically during the
they're
year?
available in a lot of places, but it depends on the time of year. So there's a number of private companies that teach it, well as some of the colleges.
And how long will the captain position be vacant while the people are finishing their courses?
Usually we don't keep vacancies in the captain's rank. So if that was the case, we have 1 or 2 spots, you maybe have a list of 6 to 8. We would hire the people that have the current qualifications. If they didn't have that course yet, they would maintain their name on that list until they got the courses, the next available position they'd be eligible for.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
I do have a couple of questions. So how much time will the candidates have from the time that they get promoted to finishing the courses? Is their probation going to get extended?
No, they wouldn't be able to promote until they finish the course. So they would maintain their name on the list, the promotional list.
Just to be on the list, but not actually take the position,
They
right?
would not
will
take the position. They'd be qualified on the list, but could not assume it until they complete the course.
So do you currently have candidates that have completed the required courses that may apply for this position?
Yes.
So you have candidates that already are within the standings of having completed those courses, but you want to open up the pool to everybody who's not at that standard, let's just say, right?
Yes. We want to make sure we give an objective view to the most members of the department who have time and experience so we can hire the best people for the promoted positions. Captain's very important.
So do you not foresee any grievable or equitable issues with that? If I'm a candidate and I have completed the courses, and yet you have individuals, and these courses became available, you would know better when, and I completed those courses, and I come to apply for this exam, and now everybody's given a chance, and I've worked my rear end off in passing those exams, would that individual feel like they're disadvantaged a little bit because they're put in the same pool?
You mean the individual who doesn't have the courses?
No,
or
the
does have
individual
courses?
who's passed and is up to par with the current standards.
Yeah.
And now he's competing with people who have not. Because after you get from this point on the list, as we know, the examination becomes very subjective. This is the objectivity portion of it, right? This is where the checks and balances happen as to who can qualify for this exam. And so if you have candidates who've already have passed the required courses, and they're put in a pool of candidates who have not, and they're going to be given this opportunity to pass the course however long the list is open for, does that create any equity issues?
I don't believe it does, because we usually do exhaust captain's lists before they're expired, the 2-year expiration. So This was brought through the Glendale Firefighters Association for that reason too, to analyze that for the equity of their members that either have the full list of classes or who are deficient one or two. And they requested that we do pursue an exemption of like this because there were so few. And those few that are deficient, I will say again, they did take the previous exam. They were not successful. They were qualified for the previous exam. They just are not qualified for this under the new standard.
So I would say to award those individuals who are up to par, who have completed the courses, would it be wise to maybe have it as a desirable qualification for individuals who have completed the courses in order, I would think, for the city to show that, hey, you've actually put in the work and you were successful in passing those courses and you're up to par with state requirements, which I would think the city cares about, and hence giving them that sort of like an edge in this examination process as to make it a desirable requirement of having completed those courses.
I feel like it's not a desirable requirement, it's required, because you can't promote unless you have it. You can be on the list, but you can't be promoted until you actually take the test. So those who to take the classes, so those who've taken them can go and be promoted, but the list stands there for 2 years, so those successful people who haven't taken the classes yet can't be promoted.
Thank you for that. If you can just have the fire captain answer whether or not you believe that the desirable qualifications for the individuals who have taken the required courses would be desirable in your eyes. Are those people more desirable to you as candidates?
I definitely want people that want to take the most up-to-date courses.
Okay.
In this case, there's so few, it's hard to say that it's one candidate's more desirable than the other because they're one course deficient. That would come to light when they went to the next step in the process, the chief's interview. They wouldn't be able to promote yet, so I wouldn't want to say it's punishment, but it would be, you'd be selecting the person that's up to date and being fair in that matter, that they have the up-to-date courses.
Excuse me.
I'll pass it
I'm
on to
sorry,
Mr. Kazarian.
How would you like me to address you? What's your rank?
The interim deputy chief.
Interim Deputy Chief Ritchie. I heard you earlier, because let me preface it by saying this. I hear what Commissioner Hatamian is saying, and it causes me concern, so that I am able to overcome the concern that is raised by what Commissioner Hatamian brought up. I reviewed your earlier remarks in my mind's eye, and I heard you talk about experience and that these people have all this experience, and they've taken the earlier track courses. They haven't had time to take the new track courses or the ones that have replaced the discontinued courses. And that was the premise that drove me to ask you, what's the difference? I mean, is this the same material repackaged differently? Or is this, some advanced methodology about your, area of practice, as a firefighter or a fire captain? And I had written words as you were speaking. And one word I wrote was experience. The other word I wrote was beyond academics. And then I wrote a third phrase, public safety. And I think you recall, I gave a little remark about, I want the person in that position to have the ultimate training to be safe, and at the same time to provide the ultimate safety for the members of the community. So, and then I hear Commissioner Hatamian suggest that, are you perhaps not rewarding those who have taken the not the advanced courses, the new version of the courses,
Updated, yeah.
And you're delaying what they would be possibly, ready to promote and occupy the position while others continue. And if I understood my fellow commissioner, his suggestion, Commissioner Hatamian's suggestion, as I understood it, was, well, maybe you should make this new version of the course as a desirable achievement, but not a mandatory achievement. But I suspect the answer to that is that no, that new course is a mandatory requirement before somebody is a fire captain in today's fire captain industry, if you will. Am I correct?
Yeah, maybe I'm not fully getting your picture. Maybe I can re-explain it. So with the old courses up to 2016, that was the standard to be a fire officer in the state, the minimum standard.
Right.
They updated it with new laws, regulations, procedures. A lot of the safety items and operations things we teach at a different level, not within these courses. These are basically accreditation for fire officer, a manager, basically. So I think the biggest concern Commissioner Tomian has is that we're giving maybe not giving the fair advantage to the people who have the up-to-date courses.
Perhaps, yes, yes. And that's a fair concern.
And I echo that.
Yeah, well, and as did I. So my question, it goes, how much of, so let's say this. So we have two individuals. One has, by supervisory evaluation history, exceeding all standards, excellent, in his or her profession. Another one who meets standards and has taken this newer version of the course. I don't know who would make a better fire captain. I'm not an expert in that industry. And while I also share the concerns of some of my commissioners that, well, maybe we should, somebody who has the more updated version or the more current version of a course should ascend, I don't necessarily agree if that ascension is going to produce someone in a position that is less experienced on the field or by hands-on knowledge than someone who simply can finish that course and then all of a sudden be a better suited candidate to promote. I don't know. I'm not on the inside.
Our testing process does vet the personnel pretty well. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with our testing process as captain. It's a full day of testing of tactical operations, supervisory skills, and then your professional qualifications, what you've done to prepare for the job. So we do vet people pretty well with that. We do have a very large interest in the captain's position. A number of people apply. We take a limited amount to the manipulative exam, those 3 events. So we do vet anything safety-wise, operational skills, management skills, your past performance, and so forth in that testing process. So I know one thing, we like to keep it as broad as possible, but to still meet a standard to get people to take the test. And that was the one reason we wanted to allow this one time.
So the question that,
And I hope I'm answering your question. I apologize if I'm not getting to your question.
You did, but there's a question that was in the back of my mind 5 minutes ago, and then I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't ask it, but I think I should ask it. It's an appropriate question. These classes have been discontinued, the ones that we are seeking an exemption for, to approve, since 2016. So am I to understand that in the City of Glendale Fire Department, nobody promoted from 2016 until now to the rank of fire captain?
No, we've had many.
And how did that happen?
Most of them had the old classes, and they met it up till our previous captain's exam was back in, what are we looking at, 2021.
Right.
And at that time, they required the old track or the new track were still accepted.
Oh, either one.
Either one. So we had competing tracks.
I see.
It was known that one was going to expire, the track A, the original. And then basically, as I said, they took, I think, 6 to 8 courses previously, and they combined them basically into 5.
And Deputy Chief, if I want to simplify everything, you're essentially here asking for us to agree, go along, support, approve, the opportunity for those who want to take the test only to get on a list, but never to promote unless they complete the class. And when they complete the class, then your department will properly evaluate now, instead of 2, perhaps 4, instead of 5, perhaps 7 or 8 candidates who all have the educational requirements and the field experience and decide who fits best in that position.
Who's the most qualified at the time based on rank on that list.
I see. Okay. I think I don't have any more questions, but others may. If I flip the pages. Yeah, no, one thing, I never saw academics here. I mean, everything we see minimum education, and I see everything from essential functions of the job, conducting fire inspections, may be required to accept temporary acting assignment above classification. I don't want to open up a whole new discussion about that. May be required to accept a 40-hour administrative assignment versus what? I don't know versus what.
The gentlemen and ladies out driving around in fire engines responding to your house or business
Right.
versus people like me who write policy and manage.
No wonder I don't see you on my block. Okay.
come by.
But at the end of the day, education training, when I get to page 70 of our packet, I see must have completed company office fire certification, must have completed wildland courses. But generally, does a fire captain have an AA degree, a bachelor's degree, a high school diploma? Is there such a requirement?
Yeah, I believe it's highly desirable to have a degree. It must have a minimum
I couldn't
AA.
find it.
There's
It's in
an
there for the
AA
A, sir.
degree component.
Where?
Mr.
It's
Chair,
page
members of the commission, Russ Kwan, Senior Human Resource Analyst. On page 70, third paragraph from the bottom, it does indicate must have completed an Associate of Arts or Associate of
there
Science
it is.
degree or 60 semester or quarter units of college.
So I'm going to now take a page from my fellow commissioners from a prior meeting. I would really like to see those kind of, requirements that immediately catch the attention of simple folks like me, high school diploma, college diploma, whatever, at the top of the education training requirement. Because I'm looking at company fire, I'm looking at wildland courses, I'm thinking, okay, I don't see any, so I'm not even thinking that somewhere down the line it's gonna go, oh yeah, by the way, the person should have an AA degree. Maybe we should put that, people put a lot of value on those things, I think. Thank you. I have nothing further. I will hear
I
my
do-
colleagues' concerns if there are any.
Thank you. I do have an educational concern. So a captain is one step closer to becoming a deputy chief.
A battalion chief and then deputy
Battalion chief, deputy chief, correct?
chief. Yes.
I have a really big problem for someone who's only a couple of steps below chief, being allowed to advance to chief and have an AA degree. I sort of feel like a fire chief that, heads an entire department of this magnitude and importance should have at least a bachelor degree.
Yeah, the position I'm in and the chief above does require a bachelor's degree, and it's highly desirable for a battalion chief.
So if we hadn't heard our city attorney, Mr. Garcia, give us a tutorial on Brown Act, I wouldn't think twice, but I want to ask our counsel. Now, are we talking outside of something agendized, or we're not violating anything, right?
As long as we continue to keep our focus on this
On
particular
one.
item, yes.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
because he got me completely all pumped up with what is and what isn't a violation. Okay, we don't want to talk about the qualifications, education of a chief, because we want to stick to the
Yes,
fire captain
thank
right
you.
now. Okay,
Okay, so you have quelled my concern. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you. Any other questions?
I do, if I may. On the supplemental questionnaire on page 72, question number 2, 3, and 4, are those the same certifications that we are going to provide this one-time exemption on?
Which question?
We're on page number 72, question number 2, 3, and 4.
Two, there's no exemption
Okay.
on that. 3 would have the exemption for some of those classes if they do have the entire old tract. Number 4, see, that's the old track on number 4. And I think that's where we talk about the exemption there. It has the old track A. So 3 and 4 do apply to that exemption.
So if they answer no to those questions, will they still qualify and be passed through? I'm assuming that's the exemption, right?
If they provide proof they've taken the previous track A.
Okay, and if they answer yes, how much weight is that given during the examination process?
I don't believe it provides any weight during the exam process on this.
So when you get the application packet and you're interviewing the potential candidates, and you see individuals who've answered no, I mean, there's a reason why this supplemental is here, right? Or else, if we're giving a one-time exemption, there's no reason to even have it here. So if you're answering no, and you have people that answer yes, is this for the purposes of giving weight to those individuals who answer yes?
No, it's not. HR staff is going to review all of the applications regardless if they check yes or no. And that would be Mr. Kwan's role, to ensure that the candidate met the minimum qualification. And then on the other courses, if they are using the exemption to go forward with the exam, he would note that as well. But there's no weight given.
There's no weight given. Okay, very good.
That was the key.
And then this is favorable to the fire department. I was just wondering, when was the last time you guys did a class study on the salary specs for this classification?
I
Like
don't
it-
know.
I mean, I guess if you tied it in with negotiations as they do a salary survey between cities for their contract raise, I believe that's ongoing now.
It's
Mrs.
ongoing
Adams?
right now?
Well, we're at the bargaining table right now, so that would have been, 3-4 years ago,
Yeah.
but we're at the table right now.
So the only reason I ask is that your starting salary, the starting range is lower than LA County.
Yeah.
Okay, so if,
Not if you're a paramedic. I don't know.
Okay, so
Because a paramedic, if you're a paramedic, then it's higher, it says.
yeah, so if you want to remain competitive, right, in this range, and you have ongoing salary negotiations, my question is, if we approve this today, are you able to adjust those salary specs?
No, we have to complete the collective bargaining process, but fire captain would be a promotion, and so more likely than not, those are who are promoted would not go to the bottom of the salary range to begin with, because they're being promoted from something else.
When do we foresee potentially negotiations closing for salary specs on this specific title?
That's hard to say. We still have to get some authority from our city council, so we're going through the process.
Okay.
I don't know how many months it will take to conclusion.
I would think that's a relevant question, because once we approve this, then this is going to be the salary spec and the open bulletin for 2 years, correct?
No, if the salary ranges are changed through the contract negotiation process, then we will go back and we will look at the class code and adjust the salaries accordingly.
Very good. And that was one of my concerns, just because I noticed that the starting salary ranges are lower. I mean, I think LA County starts off at $10,299, and I know at Glendale we strive to be a little bit better than that. And I would think our commissioners would also support that notion. Very good. No other questions?
I do have one more question about the educational requirement. Is it industry standard that a captain only has an AS degree?
I can't say I can speak through the whole industry, but I would say yes for captain. Anything above that, it's going to be, they're going to want a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
This is also, just for what it's worth, the educational requirements are standard for this position throughout the county. I mean, that doesn't mean that Glendale can't up it. They can, but then it also goes against, if we're not going to have them have those courses required for this examination, and then we're going to up the education.
I know. Yeah.
It's already added up, so.
Okay. I think we've had a healthy, productive discussion. If there are no other questions, I will ask if there are any motions.
I will move to approve.
I will second.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Kwan.
Commissioner Hatamian,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrabian,
Yes.
Chair Kazarian.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chief Ritchie. Next item, Mr. Kwan.
Reports and information, employee job performance evaluations past due aging report.
Thank you. Ms. Adams.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, before you is an informational report on performance evaluation and the return status for City of Glendale's employees. As you can see, the response rate is very good, and there are no past due evaluations on the second notice list. If the commission has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, this is a note and file item.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, thank you. Next item, please.
Civil Service Commission, staff comments.
Thank you. Any comments?
No comments.
Hearing none. Next item, please.
Closed session, reinstatement, electrical line mechanic, reinstatement, senior housing advisor, and then public employee discipline, fire communication shift supervisor has been pulled from the agenda.
Which
And
one
that
has
will-
been pulled?
Item 15C, it will not be a part of closed session.
15. Okay, thank you. 15C. Thank you. Is this when we, something, I can't figure this out. We check out, we don't check back in.
we do something?
What is it that we do now?
So at this point, we would ask everyone who is not a party to the first item on the closed session to leave. We will turn off our GTV6 feed. We will report out today, but not on camera.
Thank you. Like Ms. Barbadian said. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is for a reinstatement of an electrical